He was like, "Oh my God, you shaved."
I was like stunned.
Yes, I did. I shaved. And he was like, "Wow." And I don't personally think I look dramatically different
Because you know yourself from
yeah,
day one.
I know what I look like. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I do look a little bit different.
But as Bob Perlow said, who is that young man?
Bob Perlow. We'll have to tell people who Bob Perlow is. Bob Perlow is a comedian.
Comedian.
He's a stand-up comedian.
Yes.
Yeah, warm-up comedian for the
and-
Tonight Show and
a writer.
a writer for the Bob Newhart Show. And
And a
things.
cool guy all around.
Nice
Absolutely.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a cool dog, too.
Yeah, the dog was adorable.
And a little dog, too.
Little Betty.
But back to the story, we ran into
Yeah.
all these guys and Bob Gronko from the Key West Homebrew.com. And they had some of their homebrew in there, but it was not really good to go.
The
but-
main thing that they had there was how many
How many what?
beers did they have there?
There must have been like 20-some beers.
From all over the country. But
Yeah.
they were commercial beers, so, like we're drinking here.
Yeah,
They
Trent,
weren't homebrew beers.
We had the beer from, what was it? I got the list.
We'll wait for Danny to get da da da.
I got this list. They had the beer
He's got
from.
the list.
Yeah,
she
Terrence
wrote the
Pieces.
paper. They had the beer from New Glarus Brewing
Oh
Company.
yeah. We've had that.
Yeah, we had the Moon Man. Remember?
Yeah.
They had the Moon Man, and we had another one
That's
of those.
contraband.
Black Top. Yeah, some serious contraband.
We
had Left Bridge Brown Ale from Kennesaw Brewing Company.
Not contraband, but
Yeah.
hard to get down here.
Small Town Brewery from La Crosse, Wisconsin. Not your father's root beer. That was really strange.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome.
It was good, though. It
It was root beer, but it was like alcoholic root beer. We had the Anti-Hero IPA from Chicago.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, is
They
right.
had a bunch of beers that were very difficult to get a hold
Gate
of.
Crasher IPA.
Gate Crusher. Okay.
Keep It Copacetic from Zion, Illinois. There's a
Yeah.
whole bunch of Illinois brews. I
And
guess
there were
because
brews
they
that were
travel.
brought in that
They
were
travel
not even
up
on the
there.
list.
Apparently.
Yeah, there were a whole bunch that with Zombie Dust
Oh,
or something like that.
well, the Zombie Dust is a very unobtainable beer.
Yeah, that's pretty much like the unobtainium.
That's
of
from
beer.
Three
Unobtainium.
Floyds
Three Floyds. Yeah.
out of Indianapolis, which is probably one of the top beers that people are trying to find,
Really?
along with the Bell's Hop Slam. Zombie Dust is right up there with
Bill's
that.
Hop Slam, Heady Topper.
Yeah, Heady Topper.
Zombie Dust.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of
what's the
these
other
were,
one? There's like one other one.
Some of these beers were collaboration beers.
Yeah.
The Demento, which was a session pale ale from Ale Asylum.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was just we just happened to come across this.
It's really fun that actually this happens here. I mean, because we are actually an isolated location,
Yeah, it's tough.
and we have such like great people that bring down such great stuff.
And that's a little isolated neighborhood in an isolated corner
Yes.
in the middle of Bahama Village, which is a very, very nice little part of Key West. So,
Unfortunately, they're not going to be staying there, but they're going to have to move
Yeah.
somewhere else. That's going to turn into a nice little
but you stumbled on
studio
one of those
apartment.
a studio apartment.
Yeah, it just came upon 10 people standing around drinking beer and talking about it and having a great time. And what could be better than that? That's just wonderful.
It used to be a local radio station in there. There was
No
a
kidding.
yeah,
There was
there
also a candy shop or
little shower all the way in the back.
Yeah, tiny little bathroom.
Yeah, tiny little
Some
bathroom.
kind of weird. It was like a stove on top and a refrigerator underneath.
Yep. Yep. Spent many hours in there. So
Oh, yeah,
I know.
there was quite a lot of beer here, and we felt very honored, and of course we passed out our coasters
Yeah.
to all these people.
Which coaster is that? The Key West
the
Beer
Key
Tales
West Beer
coaster?
Tales
Yeah, well,
coaster, the
yeah.
green one. Which people, if you send $3 to the Cork and Stogie here at 1218 Duval Street, Key West, Florida 33040, you can get your very own Key West Beer Tales coaster. It's just we'll mail it to you, and it'll come through the mail, and it just helps us cover the postage, that $3. So thank you very much for that.
Hello, this is Dave Sr., and you're listening to Key West Beer Tales, the sum of all beers. All right, we should move on to the third
should
beer.
move on to
Now,
the third beer.
we don't want to move too fast if we haven't said enough. I mean, just sometimes we don't realize who said what about what beer. So, if anybody didn't get a chance,
I think I'm good here.
And this beer is the Third Coast. The Third Coast.
Third Coast.
And where is the Third Coast, by the way?
it's quite interesting, Danny, and I know where the Third Coast is, but I'm going to explain it to you as Bell's does.
Okay.
It's the Great Lakes, Michigan coastline.
Okay.
3,288 miles of coastline
Whoa.
that touches four
Thank you.
of the 5 Great Lakes along Michigan, because there's a lot of coastline up there.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a lot of water and a lot of lakes and a lot of, of course, up in Minnesota, the same thing. They have a lot of
Yeah.
lakes up there.
It always blew me away at the lakes, because I've never been there. But it always blew me away that you have these huge lakes that are, in essence, they act the same way as oceans do with waves and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and it's all fresh water.
Well, I
Yeah.
surfed in Chicago.
Did you?
Yes,
Yeah.
you can.
Holy mackerel. Look,
Have
there's
you
the
Have
sun.
you-
have you ever been to Chicago?
No.
Chicago, downtown Chicago, has a nice little golf course, a really, really nice golf course. And along that Michigan, Lake Michigan front
Yeah.
is where a lot of Chicagoans go during a summer day. And it's right in the middle of the city. It's a great beach day.
Yeah.
And you got waves and everything
yeah,
else.
I'm aware of it. I've just never been there.
Yeah, it's good. It's
Yeah, that's
really,
great.
really nice. And as a matter of fact, one of the places that Larry Bell, which we're drinking his beers tonight.
Oh, hey,
Oh.
Bell.
Bell. One of the places that Larry Bell got his start to get his beer going was Chicago. He loved Chicago because Chicago is where he kind of, he's a Michigan guy, but Chicago was where he wanted
Yeah.
to get his beer distributed. And one of the gentlemen that helped him distribute that beer, Roger Thompson.
Oh, really?
Roger Thompson the third.
That's correct.
Oh.
Who is with Stiegel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Roger is thoroughly ingrained in the Chicago beer world.
Fantastic.
Not the underworld, but the world.
Roger's
So
a
the-
great guy.
Yes.
We love Roger.
So there's our connection between the Stiegel Brewery, Stiegel Beer, and Bell's.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting connection.
We should
That's
just.
a good old world versus new world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good point. Thank you, Dave, for making that.
Is that where
You're
Glun-
welcome.
Glun's is located? Glun's is...
Glunz is located in Chicago. Glunz is
okay.
a huge distributor in Chicago, and the other distributor is the Reyes Company. Reyes Company is the distributor that just took over for Gold Coast down here in Key West.
Wow.
They are the largest beer distributor in the world.
Now, here's the funny thing is the other two beers were Planet beers, and this one's not a Planet beer, but this one, there's a note about the original Gravity, and I just had to...
That's what we were talking about earlier. Yeah.
Gravity. What's Gravity again?
It's one of the means which they determine the levels of sugar
Okay.
that can be converted to alcohol.
Oh, I see. And this is only
Mark
4.8%.
might be able to throw some other
Yeah, I mean,
words of advice in on there too.
So for in kind of a I don't want to say layman's terms because the person who actually originally said this statement, again was John Hansel from Whiskey Advocate magazine. So gravity is the sugars that can be converted to alcohol through the yeast conversion. The yeast eats the sugar
Yeah.
and then winds up drowning in its own pee.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
now the pee is the alcohol.
The alcohol.
Yeah.
And
We're
so what
drinking
we're doing
yeast
is we're
pee.
drinking pee.
Yeast
doing
pee.
yeast pee.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you're
Yeast
eating
pee.
honey, you're eating bee barf.
Yes. Bee barf. I
Everything
mean,
lives on something.
yeah, right. And it is a projected thing versus
Yeah, because you can. from the on-hand gravity, you can tell what the final alcohol content is going to be because it's measuring the level of sugar
Okay.
that's in it. So
Now it's interesting that this actually has a shelf life of 6 months, but I didn't know beer had a shelf life.
It doesn't.
Mark is an expert on this subject. So Mark, please take the floor.
Okay, so beer does not have a shelf life.
Okay.
Beer does change in flavor. The shelf life is the amount of time that they will guarantee that it will taste this way.
Ah,
As it ages, it will mature. Mm-hmm. Things will alter. If it's a very hoppy beer, the hops will kind of fall out, as they say, and it becomes much more smooth, and the malt becomes more prominent. As with malty beers, like this one is an old ale, very malty. Although it does have a kind of a pronounced hop to it, it'll still become yet maltier, and things like higher ABV beers will actually become more alcoholic in flavor. However, unless they are bottle conditioned, they don't change in alcohol. Anything with a cork is really subject to atmospherical changes
Or depth changes.
or depth
Did
changes.
you see there was an article?
I did.
I think it was they found some Finnish beer
yeah.
this
Yeah.
last week that was found on a boat, and I don't remember the exact year that it went down, but I'm going to say it was 150 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was longer than that.
It may have been.
Yeah.
But they went in there, and of course back then they corked it.
Yeah.
But they were saying that the beer tasted pretty similar to beers today. The only thing is that the corks, of course, over the years had lost their saline capacity, and some salt water had gotten in there, so that affected it. But I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understood, like even the scientific, chemical breakdown of the beer, it to me looked like it just would have been a little bit more of a sour beer.
Maybe so,
Honestly,
yeah.
I mean, like the way that the people that actually tried it described it, I was like, that sounds like a sour. Like it's brewed with a little bit of salt. Or has salt added to it.
But the thing is, the only thing I couldn't say was that, because it was salt water that got into it. I don't know if that's what made the effect or
yeah.
or what.
I mean,
Who
I
knows?
don't know
Yeah.
either.
But the fact that it's still they were saying it tasted like beer, I thought that was pretty impressive.
yeah, and the fact that they also said that it was like still a little fizzy.
Yeah, wow,
I was impressed by that.
That was amazing.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, wow, man.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah.
But remember what Mark was saying. Once those little boogers are done eating,
Ah, those
There's
little
nothing
buggers.
left to eat.
there's nothing left to eat.
Yeah.
So the alcohol level really cannot change
No,
at
that's
that
true.
point, unless there is more to be
Yeah.
eaten.
So anything that's bottle conditioned. So if you're aging a bottle conditioned beer, you're going to get a higher ABV than if you're aging a beer that's not bottle conditioned. So something that's like, what's a good example for a bottle conditioned beer?
Well,
Cooperstown?
sure.
Cooperstown, which is bottle conditioned. Those beers, if you age them, they do go up in ABV.
Well, it's because there's more sugar.
Yeah.
But if there isn't any more,
Well, that's where
it can't happen.
That goes back to the on-hand gravity. There's
Yeah.
so much sugar in the beer, and it's 2 + 2 is always going to equal 4.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. Yes.
And if you only have a certain amount of sugar in there, it can only go to a
it
certain
can only
point.
go to a certain point.
The only way it's going to go higher is if it has more
Yep.
sugars.
Yep.
or if more yeast is introduced to, I mean, like the yeast has a certain lifespan, and if different yeasts are introduced to the beer atmospherically, things can happen, change with the beer. But that usually tends to mean that your beer is going to go bad. I'm Kevin Mark, and you're listening to Key West Beer Tales, the sum of all beers.
I wish,
Bells.
I was thinking the
Bells.
name was Bells.
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 Thanks for getting us back on track, Mark.
So
That's not
beer.
like you.
Oh yeah.
But-
Oh, is there a cigar?